Do I really need to introduce this book? Like, it's the Dresden Files. It's an insanely popular series, and there's like a lot of them, and this is the only one I own, the first one, and it's also the only one I read so far, which is why we're here. So let's talk a little about the series first, and also this book. So this book is called Stormfront. It's the very, very first Dresden Files book, and it was back from 2000, so it's 23 years old. Well, this copy is not, but the book is. And right now there's like, I don't know, 25-ish books and more planned for 2024. So it's an ongoing series, and it currently stands at just about 4 out of 5 on Goodreads with 1 million reviews. And it hasn't actually been nominated for anything, at least for oh yeah, it did. It got nominated for the Compton Crook Award, but didn't win. But as with the many books, like there are so many books in Sophia Awards, so I don't know. It's a fun fact, but it's not indicative whether or not the book were actually good. The cover is a traditional, it's right here, it's a traditional what I call man with a sword style cover. Basically, as you can see, it's a guy holding something, and that's it. And it's done by Lee McLeod, as far as I can tell. McLeod, I don't know. Name is on the screen. Which means that for me at least, it's not that interesting of a cover. Given it's man with a sword, it's kind of dramatic, you know, with the background being the thunder and lightning and heavy rain and Dresden all with his staff and his talisman and the hat pulled down so you can't see his entire face. It's interesting done with what, according to me at least, is one of the most boring ways of doing a cover. For me, the cover is not selling. For me, it was like this little small text in the bottom where it says a novel of the Dresden Files. Because I got this book based on the reputation, not the cover, nor actually the author. And I didn't even know the first one was called Stormfront. I just literally saw it on the shelf. I'm like, oh, it's the Dresden Files. Looked it up, it was the first one, went, I get it. Stormfront starts out in the most stereotypical way possible for a detective noir book. Literally, it made me laugh. Like, I can sum it up like, it was a dark, stormy night. The phone rang. The lady took the phone. Like, the only thing is, it was not it was not this sexy, dangerous lady like you usually see. A femme fatale. It was not. Careful, I don't remove it. It was not a femme fatale, though. It was a scared middle-class woman who just wanted him to find her husband. But I mean, other than that, it was it just fell straight out of a black and white detective noir movie, and it's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad, because it worked for the story. But on the same end, it was also like it did pull me out. I didn't get engulfed in the story the way you normally would, but you know, I had to get a laugh from it, and then afterwards I enjoyed it because it was done really well. Something that did catch me off guard, and it probably shouldn't, given it's a noir, and it is a trope in noir, is the breaking of the fourth wall. Dresden does that quite a bit actually, where he literally talks to the audience, and it's both good and bad, because there's a lot of humor, and I think it's really fun. I think Dresden's a funny guy. There's a whole lot of jokes in this book, in a serious manner, so it's kind of funny. What's kind of negative is, and it's the same problem you could argue for like Deadpool or whatever. A lot of tension in the book is like, will they survive? Of course, usually we know the main character will. Or we assume so. But when the person is speaking to you, like breaking the fourth wall, but they're telling you the story, they're not... Okay, let's take Deadpool actually. So whenever Deadpool talks up into the audience, he will stop the movie or the comic, turn towards you and be like, this is what I'm thinking, this is a joke, haha, poopy butthead joke, and then continue the story. Dresden is more like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and see, I mean it when I say I'm good at math, because I showed you here. Notice the tense. Dresden is telling something that did happen. Deadpool is commenting on what is happening. Which means, with Deadpool, I know he's difficult to kill, but you could argue he could die and the fourth wall breaking would still make sense. For Dresden, it wouldn't. So we know from almost page 1 that he's gonna be fine no matter what. He's probably gonna get injured, he's probably gonna get sad, hurt, or whatever, but he's gonna live. And that's a bit of a negative, but I want to highlight it because for me it pulls me a little out of the story. Now let's get to a positive. I loved the potion brewing. The potion brewing was so fun. I love the idea that it's not specific ingredients, it's what they stand for. And like that's really unique and really cool. Like if you want to brew a love potion, like it's artificial love. So one way you could do that is buying love. So you could put in money. The more money you put in, the more love you will get, and so on. And that's really good. And it's also really, really interesting. Now my question is then, if you could argue a thing like can represent two things, let's take money, that it can both represent like false love but also make someone greedy. So you both make you want to make a potion that makes them love you but also like makes them greedy. I don't know why you would do that, but you could. Then you could argue money would do both. Do you then have to say out loud what's going on or what? I don't know. It's funny and it's smart, but I think there's a lot of questions to ask. And I think it is a series where you shouldn't ask too many questions about the magic system, but just accept it. Something I do want to talk about, and I think I'm going to edit here. I wasn't sure if I want to edit here or on the next, is this book is a product of its time. Which means you have to accept some, like, I suppose, stereotypical, slight, not racist, but some slight sexist, well, not slight, some sexist comments. Like, for instance, Dresden talks about how it's easier for women to hate than men, so therefore women are easily converted to using dark magic, and stuff like that. And just general vibe of a lot of the women, like, it's a little stereotypical, little in the sexist end. If you can look past it, it's a really good book. If you can't, it is what it is. Then the book is probably not for you. But let's move on to the second part of the book. I like how Jim Butcher handles the two cases that we have going on. I think it's so fun. Like, I love how Dresden is not sure how to handle both cases. He'll be like, oh, I got an idea for this one, I'll work on this. Oh, I got blindsided. Maybe I got an idea for this. Or maybe it's about time I get back to this because I need money. And he just, like, he goes back and forth trying to solve the cases. But let's be honest here. It's a detective novel with two cases. We both know they're related somehow. The question is not whether they're related, but how. And that's what, like, a good detective novel really needs to handle that well. That was a frozen bottle. A good detective book really needs to handle that well. So let's get that's what I want to say about that. Now, I talked before about some of the female characters portraying, but I want to talk about Murphy, the police interrogator woman. Is she on the backside? I don't think so. No, she's not. Oh, that's sad, because she's a very highly important character. If you saw my last review, you know I have a good track record of just doing this. I think it's the wrong woman that's on this one. Damn, it was. Okay. Oops. Never mind then. So Murphy is a, like, police detective thingy, dealing with the supernatural. Well, she's dealing with cases where ordinary science can't handle it, and usually that's magic and supernatural. And she uses Dresden as like a private detective to help them out, since he won't work for them directly. I don't remember quite the argument. Something like that, he doesn't want to, or they don't want to pay him, or a mixture. But anyway, she's a treat because her and Dresden are like polar opposite, where he's like, according to himself, a old-fashioned gentleman holding the doors for women and all that stuff, where she's a more modern woman. She does not want you to do that. She wants to be treated as an equal, and she can open her own goddamn door. She's not weak. And so they kind of have this back and forth going, and it's really fun to read how, like, they're almost running to the door trying to open it first, and it's like it's just a treat reading that. And what makes it so fun, well, not fun, but what really made Murphy a great character were when Dresden got the concussion. First and foremost, that was an excellent way of showing a concussion. Never had one, don't want to, but I feel like that was one of the most realistic depictions of a concussion. Now, the way Murphy like goes straight from Bander and all that to just taking care of him, doing what's needed, make sure that he's safe, gets him home, stays with him. It's so sweet, because it doesn't, you never feel like that she does it because she loves him, well, in the romantic sense. And that's something you should be aware of when reading a book, is that would be a classical trope that, oh, she took care of him, that must mean she likes him. She does, but not in that way, and that's amazing. I think it was the perfect choice to not make them more than friends, also because later on in the book the friendship gets kind of ruined. So, but I think that shows some like depth, and also for a book of its time, great female like characters. Of course, she's only a side character, but she is one of the most important, and I can only see her in the later books too. Final thing I want to talk about this for this section is how the book is portraying everything as being super dark. That's supposed to be great and all, but it's not as dark as I'd like it to think, and it's definitely not as dark as I would want it. Like, the murders are described as being these horrible things, but really, I think Butcher could have gone way more in depth describing how things look. Like, it wasn't dark enough for me. I wanted it to be a darker book and more, I wouldn't say mature book, but way almost horror-esque in its depictions. I think that's sad that he didn't go all the way Butcher. But of course, I don't know, like, you also have to take into account who do you write to, and like what genre do you want to hit. And he hits the detective, but I wanted it to be a dark detective. I really think they would have been great for this book. I would say the revelation of how the two cases are connected surprised me, but really they didn't. It wasn't a secret, even if you could call it a secret. Here's the thing, I honestly don't think Butcher were trying to hide it from us. He was trying to hide it from Dresden, and make sure Dresden saw it as a surprise. He didn't care about us as reader, at least not as the primary. Of course, this was your very first detective novel of like all time, and you were unaware about all the tropes. Probably would have been caught off guard, but I don't think many people didn't see how Victor Sells were the important character in both cases. So it really was more like seeing how Dresden were like trying to connect the dots, and not us. So we're kind of rooting for Dresden to see the outline, learning how he stumbles his way through the two, like diverging a lot, like this. But like how they then converge, as I showed. So diverge and then convert. I don't know. That was horrible. I don't know if I'll keep it. Meeting Macaron, the mafia leader guy thing. I really like that actually. I like whenever a very classical bad guy meets the hero, but they're not directly opposing each other. I love that trope. I don't know why. I think it's because it's rarely done very well, but I really think like this book does it well. And the reason why I think it was done well was because they had a common goal, and they had been out fighting because Dresden were convinced that Macaron were behind it, where he then learns, oh shit, he wasn't. Well, what now? And then they make the deal and all. I think it was so fun. Let's talk about the climax, because the climax of the book is huge. I love the banter Dresden were throwing when he was almost dying, like, oh, you think you almost killed me, haha, you were not even close, I'm so much smarter than you, all that stuff, even though knowing he's dying, well, nearly. I think that was so fun. I think that was in character too. What I would like more of though, and I think he did it I know he did it once and it was awesome. It was when the scorpions came, and then Dresden were like, cleaning spell, and then the broom flies and it swoops them away. I think that was so fun. I think that was awesome. I would like to see more of that, especially because we're told in the entire book how Dresden is supposed to be really smart at magic, whereas the bad guy is not. He's just supposed to be brute strong. So it would have been great if we saw more of this brute strength magic, like here's a pushing spell, and then Dresden were like, haha, I know that in order to push things you need force, so if I push and it goes in a straight line, so if I used a pulling spell on the wall I will be pulled towards it and thereby avoid your push arm, something like that, that would have been fun. But otherwise I don't really have much to say. I think the climax were decent. It had its great moment, had its bad moments. So let's conclude a little. Should you read this book then? I honestly think you should. I think a reputation it has is well earned. I think it's funny, it's clever, and be aware of the casual sexism. Be aware of all the tropiness it has. Because it is by now 23 years old, so can't exactly expect it to rewrite things. And also it does have its weaknesses other than the sexism. I think the magic in it is both underutilized and overutilized in ways. I think in some ways and it might be a character flaw, you could argue, that I think Dresden thinks he's smarter than he is, but I actually think the book is worth a read. I think it's funny. I do think it has some really great highs, and the magic system, if you can call it, at least with the potions, and in general, like the idea that it's more the emotional part and the intent than it's actually like contentions and stuff like that. I think it's interesting. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Anyways, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more. And next time we will be reviewing Rebel's Creed by Daniel Green.